Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Let me know if you can hear me okay. I just clicked the live button. It's been a little while since I've done one of these. It always feels like such a long time. But welcome to today's workshop. And I'm just going through and having a look at the chats. I've got a whole bunch of windows up at the moment. But do let me know how the audio and the video is looking. It should be fairly clear. I dated a few settings before, but I'm able to sort of zoom in and out as well to show you what I'm working on. Hey Kate, how you doing? Good to see you. Lindsay in the comments through YouTube. We've got Yvonne, Pamela, Yvette, as usual. Thank you guys for coming along. Jocelyn, Steve's, Jennifer Harris, and Margaret. Good. I think you guys are hearing me loud and clear. Marion also here, Marion Tischler, Carolyn, few new people as well here in the chats. Linda Averill, let me know where you guys are from. Keith is here too. Keith from California, fantastic. And I'm just going to lower the volume on my computer because sometimes it plays back my own voice and it's usually should mute it. Great, so fantastic. Got narrator here as well. Okay, so I think everything is running smoothly. So, guys, I just thought I would quickly introduce myself, especially if you haven't met me before. My name is Darren Yeo. I'm an artist from Melbourne, Victoria, and I run these workshops once a month. I'm trying to run them a little bit more actually, but sometimes I'm a bit strapped for time. But I do want to run more of these, especially like some shorter ones. And what I do is, yeah, basically, I like having this type of interaction with you, especially when you've got live workshops, being able to actually comment and ask me questions. And for me as well, it's kind of fun because it's got a lot going on the computer screens, but it's good fun just to be able to connect with you guys a bit more and get to kind of know me as well. So, and of course, get to paint a scene, which is why you're here. So, I had a few comments about this photograph. Most of you liked the reference photo. Some of you thought it was a little bit boring, which is fine. I want to actually change it up a little bit, maybe add in a figure here at the front. You can see actually I've done a couple of quick sketches beforehand, and I think it's one of the important things when you're working with a composition, a reference photo, just to make sure you change it around a little bit, because sometimes it is a little bit boring. Sometimes you get photos that just don't have enough shadows, that don't feel like it's missing something here and there. It's very difficult to find that perfect photo, even if you're a photographer, to snap that picture at the exact right time. So it's one of the good things about having being an artist. You can change things around and add a person here, take something out, whatever works for you. So just these are a couple little 5-minute sketches I did before, and I find this kind of helps me to figure out whereabouts I'm going to put some of the shadows. For example, see underneath the buildings, a little bit darker underneath the buildings, and background there with these mountains. I'm thinking I will make these mountains a little softer around the edges to help push them back. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to go through a bunch of watercolor techniques as well. Okay, so thank you guys for joining. I think you can everyone can hear me okay. If you can't hear, there's actually it's difficult to say, but on the bottom right hand corner of the screen there's a little button that unmutes the video. Usually Facebook will just mute the audio, automatically. Fantastic. So so basically how this will work is I'll go through and I want to go do the drawing, and I'll show you my entire process. I'm also going to talk about the techniques I'm using. If you have any questions through the live, just let me know. Write something in the chats. Let me know a little bit about yourself as well. I've seen a lot of new names in here, and it's kind of good because we have a couple communities. Got a community of 170,000 people and another one with about 2,000 to 3,000 people, and there's a lot of great interaction on there, and people sharing their work, learning from each other, and just helping motivate each other as well. So you might be able to meet a friend here as well. And we've got Helena from Denmark and Tina from Concord, California. Nice to meet you guys. Right, so as you can see, you've got a couple of quick little sketches here. And what I'd recommend is for you to have your reference photo up on the screen somewhere, or if you potentially you might have it on your phone or something like that, just have it separately available so you can view it. Now, I'll do just a quick little sketch to show you what I'm doing. Now, part of the whole process of painting, I think, is before you even actually start on your painting, I recommend doing a really quick sketch. And you can see in this reference photo, you've got the horizon line where the sky meets the earth, roughly about halfway through the scene like that. Okay. And, when I was doing some of these sketches, I was trying to figure out, like, did I want to make this entire scene really big, go all the way to the end, or do I just want to include some of these houses here on the left? And I think I'll actually include some of these bits and pieces here on the right, just because it will zoom out and appear a little bit smaller. That way I can potentially draw more attention to some of these, the figure here in the foreground. Okay. And of course I don't, depending on how the scene turns out later, but I do want to make, I do like this figure here that I drew in on the side. You can't see it, but this guy here with a rake and a hat, I like that he's sort of closer, and that kind of idea there. So, when you're doing your sketch, put in that horizon line and look at the buildings and say to yourself, hey, that is actually a rectangle. Drawing a rectangle. The bottom part's also a rectangle, and you've got this water, what do you call them? Water tank here, and kind of like that sort of shape, like that. You can really, okay. You're just drawing shapes, and you're not worrying about really like it looking like a shed or anything like that. You're just following and getting a bit of practice in terms of these little shapes like that. Okay, so notice underneath the buildings, it's actually a little bit dark underneath. The sunlight is coming from directly above. Okay, the sun's coming from directly above, and that's pretty much it. You've got some mountains and stuff in the background, and one thing to suss out is how dark are those mountains. I think we want those mountains, somewhat dark, just so that they draw out some more contrast with these buildings. See what I mean? So it looks like the rooftops are illuminated by more sunlight. Make them pop out some more. Okay. Still undecided about this figure in terms of how large I want to make this figure. Got some sheep and things here in the background. They're not a huge deal. We can figure them out as we go. But this whole stage here of just planning, composing your scene, it will help you to figure out where you're going to place objects, place different bits and pieces. Here, you're going to figure out the light source. I know the light source is coming from directly above. So that's something I actually want to preserve. I don't want to make it too angular. Might have it maybe running towards the right a touch, like in the reference. Okay, but that's your basic sort of scene. You're also sussing out the dark areas. You can see this tree here. It's actually darker than the mountains. It's in the front. It's further in the front. So I can use that like that to just create more contrast on the left-hand side of the scene. Bring out that tree more. Bring it in front of the mountains. Okay, we've also got all these wooden poles and stuff like that as well. So these three images will, one, build confidence, and also help you to figure out where the light and the dark areas are, and help you to plan your composition, plan what your painting is going to look like. Of course, where you're going to place these different elements, because you don't want to do this on your bit of watercolor paper. I think spending a few minutes on these sketches, it's priceless, really. You can learn so much. Jennifer's saying, not seeing the stream live. He hasn't started yet. Correct. I have started. Let me just write something in the chats. Started. Please refresh screen or page. Yep. Cool. Let me just write a little thing in the comments. I'm just going to write with the sound. To enable sound, click bottom right of the video. There is a speaker icon Sometimes it's set on mute. There we go. Righto. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, Facebook does mute stuff every now and then. Okay, just having a look. Do you guys have any questions so far? Let me know if you have any questions. The reference photo, Ellie, is in the discussion section of the event. Okay, if you just give me one moment. Just give me one moment and I'll send it to you. Okay. And I'll just paste this over here in the comments so you can have a look. All right. Oops. There you go. Righto. I just want to double check, just confirm with all of you if you can hear me okay and see me okay. Always on Facebook, there are just some issues with some delays in the video. I know Jennifer Harris is saying there's a bit of issue with the video. Jennifer, if you want to refresh your browser screen, it might work after that. Okay. It seems like from my end, it's looking fine, especially on YouTube. There's also a YouTube link in the video description. There's no issues there. Usually everyone can see completely fine. So yeah, maybe refresh your screen, restart your computer or something if that doesn't work. Yeah, sometimes very difficult for me to figure out what's going on with your computer, especially because I'm not there to see. But yeah, give it a refresh. And I'm going to get started on the actual drawing for the scene now, guys. And got a bit of paper that I've taped onto some board. Okay, just a little bit of paper, nothing special. Bit of cotton watercolor paper. Use 100% cotton paper, and I find this stuff works really, really well because you can put in multiple layers without it lifting up previous layers. Not only that, you can get in really nice soft effects because the paper allows for some complex blending, and I only find that to be the case with 100% cotton paper. When you're using, like, for example, cellulose paper or just normal paper, you're going to find that you're going to get a bit of lifting. You're going to get maybe the paper surface rubbing off. So I always recommend, if you can get yourself some 100% cotton paper, this is textured paper, so medium or cold press texture. I mean, fantastic. You just can't beat that. And for us in Australia, it costs about $8 to $10 for a big full sheet of paper, which is, I think, 76 centimeters by 56 centimeters. You can tear that down into 8 sheets of paper. I mean, great value. And of course, you give yourself the best possible opportunity and chance at learning watercolors if you use good materials. So that's my recommendation. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, we took a bit of time, do a bit of sketching to get you guys warmed up. How you doing, Marnaz? I haven't seen you for a bit. Good to see you. Okay, so everyone says that the audio is working all right and the video is working all right. So we're just going to continue, everyone. All right, so let's, keeping this sketch in mind, I like this one, the one to the left there, but I will extend it out a bit more, maybe add in some more bits and pieces here on the right. So I might actually just move this palette out the way. It gets in the way. What I'm trying to do. Okay, and okay, so horizon line, I'm going to put it roughly here, about in the center of the page or just below the center of the page. I put it below the center of the page, probably better, so that I can get in more of the sky. Okay, and what were we doing here? We were, of course, just putting in the rooftop of some of these buildings, like there. That's the top of one. There, the bottom part of the building here. Okay, like that. And all we're doing is that we're drawing shapes. Okay? Rectangle flays out a bit on the edges, and rectangle at the bottom. This little water tank here. Another water tank here. They're just shapes. Like a can of beans or something like that. And some bit of shadow on the right hand side. And notice how I'm holding my pencil. I'm holding it right at the edge, on the end, sorry. And that allows me to draw very loosely without committing to a really dark line. Okay, and that is important because you don't want to go too dark at this stage. We're really just at the planning stage, and I don't want the pencil to quite show through. Okay, this way you can, if you make a mistake with your pencil, you can always just correct the line. And you have to use erasers and stuff. I don't like using erasers, it's if possible. Okay, here's another part of this rooftop of this building in front, this kind of larger shed. This, I think this is a shearing station in Queensland. Can't remember exactly where the photo's from. I'm pretty sure it's in Queensland, but it's typical sort of Australian farming sort of scene. And this sort of one is a bit weird here. I'll maybe just put in a bit more of edge to it like that. This could be the side of the barn. Okay, so there's a triangular sort of pattern like that. Okay, it's all kind of stuff here, like bits of chairs and things at the base. I'm not going to bother too much with that. The big thing is these roofs. You're really going to make sure that you get in the roofs fairly accurately, because we're going to leave those pretty much white. Okay, so they're going to form quite a strong contrast. There's a door here, a little doorway here as well. You can see underneath the roof area, there's actually darkness like here as well. A little bit of shading perhaps. No big deal. Just a reminder for me to go in darker afterwards. Okay, like that. So we've got a couple, bunch of these bits and pieces here. How about we put in a tree here, but I'm going to put in like a bit more detail for the branches, like a little bit more detail for the trunks of the trees. If you see in the reference photo, there's not really much in there. It's just a larger, sort of darker shape there. But I just have indicated some branches in here. And the way you draw trees is that they kind of have this repeating structure. At the base, you've got these larger trunks, and then they branch out to maybe like 2 or 3 different limbs. Those limbs then branch off into separate ones as well. Okay, I don't want to overdo it, but just something like that, so you can maybe see a couple of tree trunks in there. I don't know. It's just something I decided there on the spot. Okay, but there we go. So that's kind of like a bit of a tree line there in the back. And of course, this is kind of quite dark. We'll have to remember to make sure that's dark enough later on. Even underneath the rooftops here, there's actually a fair bit of darkness in these bits and pieces here. Okay, and this mountain in the background goes like this. Just put in some indications of those mountains. I'm really going to simplify this down in terms of the background mountains as well. I don't want them to take up too much real estate here. Just some softer, maybe bluish mountains in the distance would be nice. Don't want them to also go too high. Just another good thing about putting in these mountains is because we've got all this white areas on the rooftops, they're quite light. If we then put in those mountains in a darker color, what you find is that it makes the light just pop out from the roof quite a lot. Kuro DM's asking, sorry, time for me to go to sleep. Will you put the replay up? Yes, I'll have the replay up for a bit afterwards. Thank you for joining, though. Yeah, and guys, do me a favor. If you actually, at any point of the video, if you're enjoying it, finding it helpful, do me a favor and click the like button, share it with some of your friends. It's what really helps me to get my videos out to more people, share my skills with everyone. Thanks so much. Okay, so pretty much I think this is almost the hardest part of the scene, believe it or not, just putting in these buildings out in the back. Again, you've got, it looks like some kind of caravan or something out there. It's difficult to see exactly what that is. There are some trees You know, I could put something in here. Why not? Let's put in like a, like the whatever it is. It looks like a caravan, maybe like that. Um, Something small like that. I really don't. Kind of indescript shapes, really, just to maybe balance it out. The rest of it, really, you know, we've got some sheep here. You know, let's put in some sheep. They're so tiny out in the back. And the way I put them in is that you kind of got this oval-like shape for the body. So draw the oval shape of the body, and then the head like a smaller shape like that. And then you want to put in a couple of legs. Okay, simplify this down. Okay, and this is really just an indication, because later on, what I'm actually planning to do is maybe get in some uh, use a bit of gouache to get in some of the details. The way you know, when the sheep's sort of facing forwards as well, you've got kind of this round part of the body like that, and then the head, you know, facing downwards sometimes, usually eating a bit of the grass. See? Something like that. And just zoom in a bit closer so you can see. Okay? So you don't really need much detail. Think about this as just an indication of where everything is. And be mindful as well of where you're putting everything, making sure that they're spaced apart. You've got to, you know, if the sheep are kind of spaced apart a little bit so that there's some variation in them as well. I'm not, I'm not interested in putting in huge amounts of detail here for these sheep. I just want to make sure that I've got an indication of them. Okay, I mean, that one looks kind of funny as well, but I can fix that up later, you know, like that. There. As you'll find, when you get closer to the foreground, they get bigger and bigger. In the background, they just become sort of small little indescript shapes. Okay, but there's more details as you move forward. And let's go and get this uh, little sketch of this farmer or whatever that I've put in here before. I'll put in the hat. I'm going to put him in maybe here. Head about here, perhaps. And hat like that. Hat. Let me just make sure that I've got the right size for everything. Like that. Show you a bit closer to the front of the scene. Arm here. Arm coming out like this. Like that. And maybe like a rake or something like that. There. And okay, maybe a couple of legs like this. There. She's like closer to the scene. Closer. Looks like he's doing something. All right. Kind of hunched over a little, doing some work. Okay. Something like that. Usually shoes. I'll put one coming off to the right like that. The other one sort of facing something like this. Or like that maybe. Okay. Bit of shadow underneath him. There we go. And that's like a pretty basic sort of figure here. Not a whole lot of detail. Just enough to imply figure, person just doing a bit of work. You get this rake coming out of the scene. Yeah, that looks better actually, something like that. Maybe some shrubs here on the ground. You know, we've also got this like kind of area of fencing across coming down there. I was actually thinking to myself whether I should put a car in there or not. You know, like a truck or something in here. Let's just do it. Let's just do it for fun. Yeah. So I've got to put in a shape of a car here. And this is just going to be the windscreen, really, the back windscreen of the car, like that. Kind of just parked off in the distance, like that maybe. Bottom part of the car, just like this. Could just be a car just parked here. And a bit of shadow underneath, like that. Okay. Maybe just parked in the property or something. You know, you don't have to add it in. I've just decided to put it in there. Okay, and we've got some of this fencing area. I'm going to make it a bit larger. Okay. Just kind of closer. Might have to increase the size of these sheep as well. Okay, just increase the size of them a little bit more as we move down to the front. Um, Everything you draw in or paint in has to be roughly, you have to look at it relative to everything else. I can't just put someone, a person of the same size, all the way back here. They're going to look like a giant. So you kind of have to adjust. For example, I mean, this car, it's smaller. If I made it really big, made the windscreen real big, it wouldn't make sense. It would actually make the car look a lot closer. So in terms of creating depth in your painting, it all starts from your drawing, making sure that you've got the scale of things correctly. You know, if I made these sheep really tiny, they'd just look out of place. They would look, yeah, they'd just not look right, like ants or something out in the background. We don't want that. Okay, so we're really just trying to place some of these fence posts. I'm kind of actually a bit confused as to exactly where to place them, but you know, I want to make them bigger here at the front, that's for sure. Okay, and they connect up to a degree like this as well, and not perfectly as well. Okay, so you see some of them just sort of wonky, some of them just not even connected properly. That's okay. But we've got a good little sketch to go by. And, you know, if you want, for example, you could put in a person back here, you know, a figure back here, maybe holding also some kind of rake or something, leg here. Yep. So got another figure here in the background. So it's you're again implying that sense of scale. It's saying what this is saying is that this person's closer, this person's further away. Okay, but the heads roughly line up at the same point of the horizon line. Okay, but it kind of looks like it's going up on a little elevation. Okay, the land. I think that's a pretty good drawing, everyone. I don't, you know, I could keep on going. I could really keep on going, but this is pretty good. If you need any help or if you have questions, please let me know in the chats. Let me know in the chats how you're going so far. You by this time you should have a similar drawing as to what I'm doing at the moment. Okay. Yeah, it's. I think everyone's doing okay. Let me know. I think it seems like a lot of you are quite busy drawing. There's a little bit of a delay as well from when I speak to when I actually to when you actually hear what I'm saying. Okay. I'll give you guys just a moment. Give you guys just a moment to respond. Christy, how's it going now, Christy? Can you hear? Can you hear and see? Okay. Let me know. From my end, everything. From my end, everything looks fine. Art House says chickened out on adding people. Give it a crack. Give it a crack. If one thing you can do is that you can also bring up, just search online, search for some images of farmer or something holding a rake that can help you to sort of get the basic shapes in. Carolyn's asking, can you describe drawing a sheep again? Okay, I'm not a sheep drawing expert, but I will show you very quickly how I break them down. Now, drawing anything really, I just look at the shape of it, try to break it down into basic shapes. So you know, they've got the body like that, kind of this oval. I'll do like large oval shape like that for the body, and their head sort of has this sort of section that comes out at the bottom like that. Okay, kind of like a rounder head there, some ears or whatever. I don't draw those on, but then you got some legs like this. Okay, this is one like a sheep that's facing sideways, maybe. Okay, that's a really basic sheep. Okay, it's not doesn't look like much here, but when you draw lots of them together, especially a lot smaller, they actually start looking like them. Okay, you've got, even they're facing the right hand side, you're really just doing that same thing there. They've got their heads in the grass a lot of the time. Okay, that's another one. Now, if you're drawing them face on, like facing us, it's kind of like a rounder shape like that, and then the head's like here, or the head's maybe like further down doing something, eating, and then you've got some legs like this there. This one's kind of just looking up ahead, looking towards us, like that. Some little ears as well. These are like a lot closer, but that's really the gist of it. Okay. Narrator's asking, are there any perspective lines to the fence? The perspective is very gentle here in the narrator. It's almost like coming out from here. Very, very gentle perspective. I don't think it's too necessary, but you can do something like this, for example, just like that. Some lines just coming out like this, coming from that sort of section there, running out. But I'm not going to worry myself too much with it. In fact, I think that's, yeah, something like that. But the vanishing point is roughly like here. You might want to draw some lines coming from that. Alrighty, guys, I think we're ready to get started with the painting. Okay, it looks like you're going all right, Christy. Good to hear. I stream on 2 places, on YouTube and Facebook, and like on my end, the stream looks okay, and the program says that it's running fine. But there's always sometimes can be issues with little outages here and there, but they don't last long, so hang around. So I'm going to grab my palette. A lot of you guys ask me what colors that I use, and I'm using the most basic colors, really. If you've got your 3 primary colors, if you've got red, yellow, and blue, that's all you need. You don't need 1,000 different colors. I have a few here just because I've been painting for a while now, and after some time, you do like a bit of variation in what you paint with. But I've got some yellow ochre, which is like a subdued kind of yellow. Got a green here, darker green. It's called an undersea green, or you can use olive green. You can use Hooker's green. It's also a darker green. You can mix your own green. Mix a bit of ultramarine blue with a bit of Hansa yellow. Whatever works for you to get a slightly darker green. If you get a darker green, then you just got to add a bit of water to get a light green of that. So I always like to mix in different greens as well. But before we even talk about greens, I know there's lots of greens here in the grass and stuff. I want to get in all the light first. I want to get in all the yellows, because when you start painting greens, I mean, it's very easy to just suddenly turn all your yellows into green. So I always start with the yellows first. So the brushes I'm going to use for these first wash is one of these brushes. These are mop brushes, watercolor mop brushes. They have a large belly, small tip on the top, and the tip just allows you to cut around shapes. Okay, large belly allows the paintbrush to pick up a lot of paint, so you don't have to continuously go backwards and forth all the time, just picking up paint all the time. Some people, when you start out, sometimes people use these sort of brushes, these tiny little synthetic brushes, to paint something, and that's the worst thing you can do. These are meant to be for little details like the sheep, maybe these fence posts and things like that. You don't want to use that to paint large areas, because it's going to look too overworked. You can't pick up enough water. You end up mixing together all odd sort of disjointed areas. So use a large brush for this first wash. Even if you don't have a watercolor mop brush, use a larger one, like a large synthetic brush, something like that. That will do the trick. Okay. Let's get some yellow. I'm going to pick up some of this yellow ochre, a little bit of yellow ochre, and drop that here into the foreground. I accidentally flicked a bit of paint up there. No worries. Really, really light paint, okay? We're talking about 10% paint only and 90% water. All right. I use a really large palette as well, so that it makes it easier to mix colors, mix especially large quantity of paints, so you don't have to continually just go back and forth. Okay, I want to maybe a bit more vibrancy in this. There's a tiny bit of this Hansa yellow in here. Okay, notice how it's just slightly warmed up a bit at the front. Okay, I don't want to use too much of that vibrant color just yet. Just a bit of it here where the grass is like a bit more vibrant. Okay, this is also drawing attention to the figure when I put in a bit more vibrancy in here as well. Okay, so you don't want to use too vibrant colors everywhere. I find for me, after some time, the best thing is just to save those really vibrant colors for contrast, areas of contrast. Okay, then we've got all these sheep here. Now you've got to remember as well that all this area in the back is green. Okay, like all the grass, kind of like greenish, yellowy green. Okay, but you don't have to worry about going over the top with a bit of yellow. And the reason why is because you can easily just mix in a bit of blue or a little bit of green, and suddenly this yellow will just evaporate and turn into green. You won't believe how quick it just disappears. Okay, take your time with this wash and just get in a nice soft wash in here. Okay, I'm really just wetting the paper with a bit of this lighter color. Okay, also, you've got these like houses and things like, not houses, sorry, the sheds out the back as well. And like I mentioned before, I don't want to color them in really. I just want to get in a bit of white, leave the white of the paper showing through for the top of the roofs, and the bottom of them are actually kind of this grayish color. Just a basic gray color, and you mix gray together by, if you've got all your three primaries, yellow, blue, and red. Yeah, yellow, blue, and red. Almost forgot. Mix them together, you end up with a really nice gray. Okay, but I do have a convenience gray here. This is called neutral tint. Hope the glare on the paper isn't too bad. Let me just lower the light a touch. No, it can be tricky when it's drying. It just does this. Get it? Okay. And you should have a nice soft area of lighter yellow here. And really remember what I said, by keeping it light, 10% paint only in this area. Okay, mostly just looking at water. All right. Now for the sky, what I want to do is just wet part of it. Okay, wet part of the sky, like kind of just in descript areas like that. And I want to work on just getting in a bit of blue in the sky. Let's just get this out of the way. Okay, this is a bit of cerulean blue. Okay, cerulean blue is a nice kind of light blue. Okay, and I can do this, just get in some cloud-like shapes like that. And what I'm doing is that I'm cutting around parts of the paper. Can you see that? I'm just leaving in bits of the white of the paper showing through. And I'll work on that in just a moment, get in some more color. But this is what I'm doing, just adding in a bit of that cerulean blue, and especially at the top, I'm just darkening a touch at the top. I've added in a little bit of ultramarine with the cerulean blue. Okay, and I'm just trying to mimic this sky that you see. Okay, and because we have some of the water that I put on the paper before, notice how some of the edges are softer. You get these nice blendy edges in some parts, and you get some harder edges in other parts, and you want that so that we have like a variety of cloud-like shapes in the sky. Some, because when you look at clouds, some of them are soft, some of them are not, some of them are sharper sort of clouds. So this is kind of a quick way to get it in. And the trick is leaving some of the white of the paper there. Okay, leaving a bit of the white of the paper and try to paint everything in. Okay, it's got some clouds. Now what I'm going to do is I've got a bit of gray or whatever on the, you just mix up a little touch of gray. A bit of gray. Again, like I said, if you've just got a bit of your three primaries, mix your three primaries together. water this grey down a lot because it can get a bit overboard like that. See, that's too dark. But you'll notice, some of the clouds have like a bit of darker color underneath like that. There, just find areas that you can perhaps drop in a bit of that grey in parts, okay? Not too obvious, but just bits and pieces, okay? Like that to keep it interesting. In parts of the sky, here as well, look, there's a bit of greyish color there. You know, sometimes you get a bit of cloud that might look too sharp, just you can soften an edge like that. Okay, just to wet the edge of the cloud and it causes this soft effect like that. Okay, sort of rub onto the edges of some of the areas, but you do want to leave some sharp edges as well. So don't get rid of all of them. When they dry, it actually looks pretty good. But just gotta wait until that part soften that. Okay, we've got some clouds. These, I think they look like clouds anyway, guys. They quick little thing like this, right? You can just, you can keep on going really. You can, depending on how much detail and at what point you think you're happy with them. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Maybe a touch more grey in some areas, but for the most part, pretty happy with how that looks as a general sky wash. I'm going to move this down. Now, over here, we've got these mountains, and I did mention before I want to push those mountains back. And how do you push the mountains back? Well, we're actually in a very good position right now because we've gone in and done the sky, and this has come down slightly near to the mountains. And what this has done is that it's created a little soft edge on these mountains. You see, just a little soft edge there. Before I get into that part, actually, I'll just give the bottom area a quick spray with water to keep it kind of wet. Don't want that to dry too early. And here, we've got a little bit, like I mentioned, a bit of this wet area up the top. So we leave that to dry a little bit. I'm going to pick up some blue, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and maybe just dull that down with some orange. If I can just mix some of that together. Blue and orange complementary colors. And when you mix a bit of orange in there, it kind of just dulls that blue down a little bit. Okay, we don't want too much of it. Just something like that. It's like a cooler color. Okay, let's test it. Let's test that out. Yeah, that looks all right. That looks all right. There's also some green that I can put in, a bit of this darker green. Let me just try that. Yeah, that looks okay. So a greenish blue. Okay. And as you see, when we're touching that area at the back where, the area is sort of like still wet, the mountains off in the distance, they actually have a soft edge. Yeah. So it sort of blends into the distance a touch. So that's a little trick. And timing in watercolors is really important, like when you do things, because when you go in too early, this is just going to spread uncontrollably. It's going to frustrate you. So I let it dry a little bit. And I'm going in while it's still kind of wet. Bit of this blue color. Okay, where do I want it to start? Roughly here, yeah? That. Okay. That. There. Okay. And I'll pick up this smaller flat brush. Smaller flat brushes will help me control that a bit better. And a bit more of that blue maybe in here. And unfortunately, some of this has started to go into the buildings a touch. Don't really want that to happen. Here, it's probably not going to do it because I've not got any water in there. But you want it to be quite a sharp edge. Okay, sharp edge around the buildings. So more of this sort of bluish color like that. Here around the rooftop like that. and like this, cutting around and coming downwards. Okay, that just bringing that down. Okay, bringing that down like this. This part, yeah, it's just a bit wet up there. I will leave it to dry slightly before I go into it, so we can work into this part first. And that's why I say, you know, timing, understanding timing is so important. And it took me a while to figure this out, to realize, yeah, the right time to actually carry out certain techniques. Because if you want something to look sharp, that area needs to be dry. Otherwise, it's going to just blend in and look too abstract. And abstract is good if we're painting things like grass or, you know, shapes that don't need too much detail. But for these rooftops, I do want it to be, you know, a bit darker. So I want to make sure that, sorry, the roofs to be lighter. So I want to make sure that this dark color that I'm going around it, you know, is sufficient just to create enough contrast. Let's have a look here. That's fine. Okay. There we go. That. Yeah, I think I actually accidentally put in, sprayed a bit of water onto that area before, so that's why it kind of just wet that spot too much, but it doesn't matter. Okay, bit of that rooftop. Cut around that rooftop. While we're here, let's get in a bit of grey, a little bit of grey, a bit of, I've got a bit of black, you know, whatever you got, neutral tint or black or whatever. And let's put in a bit here underneath the buildings. Okay, a little bit of that. Now, when I say underneath the buildings, I'm talking about underneath the rooftop. Okay, just underneath here, there's a bit of darkness. And it really just carries down into the building like that. And I'm getting that to blend further down as well into the grass. Okay, let's do it here as well. That, just a bit of that grayish color. Yeah, just blend that downwards. Like this, blend that down. Okay, what's this one here? That's like another, again, like another kind of water tank. Okay, a little bit of gray there on the side. Okay. That, you know, at this point, the biggest thing to keep in mind is to make sure that you've got the rooftops of all these buildings preserved. Really important. Really important to get those rooftops. You know, that one kind of stuffed a little bit, but does be fine. Does the trick. You know, bit of, even this stuff here is a little bit not as defined, and you can, while the paper is still wet, see how I just drop in some extra darker paint. This is a way, while the paper is wet, to continually just get in a bit more contrast and a bit of variation, because actually in this area there's some trees, and you see that, just like some distant trees and stuff in here that I can imply, but I don't want it to be too obvious, because if we go into there too much, suddenly all the details are going to draw the eye into the background and distract the viewer. So, you know, a little bit of dark, you know, spots in there, why not? But at the same time, I don't want to overdo it. Okay, the paper is still wet. You can do stuff like this. It's no big deal. Just going to spray the bottom part as well. Quick little spray. Here on the left-hand side, I've got another bit of darkness. Art House is asking, are you working at an angle or flat? I'm working on, yeah, it's completely flat actually, but actually it's better if you work on a slight angle. I've just angled it slightly up. If you angle it up, the water moves downwards, and yeah, it just blends a bit better rather than air is just pulling. So yeah, if you angle the paper, you'll be good. Over here, let's put in some darker color. You know, I'm going to get in a bit of green and just mix it in with some of this black, get a dark sort of color like that. Okay, this is a really dark mix. Don't know what that is. Okay, but I want it to be pretty sharp. Okay, there. And initially I thought to myself those trees here might be good to add in a bit of detail for the trees, but I'm actually just going to go over the back of it and just yeah, just mow them down like that. I think it will look better, and actually it's a bit easier for me to do it this way. Later on, what we can do is actually get in some more darkness or some details for the tree branches if you want. Uh, but yeah, something I've changed. So even if you put something in pencil something in pencil before, feel don't feel like you have to stick with exactly what you've drawn in there. You can, of course, change things around as time goes by. Okay. Um, okay. Remember to cut around that roof as well. Okay. Bit of darkness in there. It's just as you can see, just a bit of darker paint, but we want to make sure this paint is darker than what's in the background so that these trees kind of move forwards a bit. As you can see, they come forwards. There's actually little fence posts and things in here as well, which we'll get in later. Okay, so I think that was pretty much, the hardest part of the scene. Let's put in some of the details of the grass, and it's all just yellow here, like I mentioned before. So I'm going to get a bit of green, bit of lighter green. This area is still wet, and I'm going to just drop in a bit of this green in here. Let's drop in a touch of this like lighter green, very watery green, and I'm putting this around the sheep. Look at that, just a bit of this green moving around like that. If you can learn how to use wet and wet efficiently, you can paint many, many times faster. I mean, I used to paint in, using different washes, multiple washes, wait for things to dry and then go back into it when I was starting out painting, and that frustrate me because it would make everything look, one, overworked, and two, it would take such a long time to get in detail. But can you see here how I'm painting this grass? But I'm almost done. I'm almost done putting all this grass in. Okay, because the paper is wet, and so what happens is that it will, the paint just sort of spreads by itself. Okay, this is a little fan brush. It's a brush that has like multiple bristles on it. Allows you to get in details, little bits of grass, little strands of grass, without without having to use a larger brush, or not a larger brush, a smaller brush to draw each individual blade of grass in there. Okay, just flicking that around. Like even in here, you notice there's like bits of stuff, just debris and things on the ground, like grass. Okay, and I'm being careful to make sure I'm leaving in some of the yellow, because like I mentioned before, that it's so easy to get rid of a lot of that yellow if you're not careful. I've even got a bit of yellow ochre here, a bit of darker yellow ochre. You can mix that up with a bit of gray, and you can get in some darker bits of yellow strands too. Okay, this just around this fella here, like that, keeping it pretty light. Okay, greens and yellows coming in through here. Okay, not really any darks, just all your lighter colors. Okay, even the greens, they're still pretty light, as you can see. Okay, of course there are actually a few darker spots of green in here, like for these shrubs, which you can just drop in. You pick up the paint at a high concentration, drop in something like that here. Okay, that's really a bit of darkness there, and then you can see how it just kind of creeps its way up this bush or whatever it is there. Okay, so we can get in some, yeah, just some more tonal variations in this mix, I guess, like that. Some of them come to the fence. We haven't even started working on the fence yet. We don't need to. We just got to imply this grass and the texture of the grass and the terrain. That's everything else is just icing on the cake. Okay, the sheep, the people, the shadows, the fence, the little windows on the house, on the sheds and things, just icing on the cake. If you have to get this these like large details in well, otherwise the rest of it just doesn't quite make sense in the absence of all that. Okay, so look at that. I'm just really feathering my brush all the way in here, and I think they call this scumbling. You know, where you indescript movements really, but I'm also being very mindful of where I'm adding the paint, and it's hard to even explain what I'm doing. It comes with experience, but you, you're trying to leave out bits of the yellow, and you're trying to just layer over the top with some of this green. Okay, at the same time, and allowing everything to blend together and adjusting, because when you're painting wet into wet, you find that actually things just keep changing. You put in a bit of paint, it's actually put in quite a lot of, I thought, was darker paint in here. Now it's just disappeared. It's just moved in through here. Um, a few questions. I'm just going to go through some questions, guys. Do you have any? Do you have anything to ask me at the moment? Let me know in the chats. Jennifer's saying, I'm not used to doing so much pencil drawing before painting. I don't like to see the pencil under the paint. How do you prevent seeing the pencil on the paint? You often, once you're done with the painting, you won't really see it. Just yeah, if you draw lighter, it will be easier for you. You don't have to worry. Even when I draw pretty dark, I find that it's not too obvious. You'll be surprised. The pencil also, funny enough, tends to, I don't know whether it's the pencils that I use, but they kind of are slightly soluble in water. When I put water on them, they kind of just disperse the graphite. Okay. How are we doing on Facebook, everyone? We've got 58 people on Facebook. We've got another 20 on YouTube. Okay, Rhonda's asking, will this be recorded? Yes, it will be. It will be recorded, but hang around to the end. I'll give you some final special tips for you guys at the end, and I'm also going to talk about my ongoing master program that I've been having out or released now for about a year and a half. All right. I don't see really any other questions. Jennifer's asking, I don't do people either. Yeah. To build your confidence in doing people and figures, what I recommend is perhaps getting just a separate sheet of paper and just painting them on a bit of scrap paper, and you'll feel a lot more confident. Definitely, don't avoid it because it's important. Alrighty, I think we are getting to the point now where we can continue, with this second wash. Okay, really, it's just for me, I tend to spend a lot of time in this at this point of the painting because I just really love painting wet into wet. I think that's one of my most enjoyable or the things I find enjoyable about watercolors. And it used to be something that I hated, like really hated, because of the feeling of just not being able to control. But now I find it like absolutely exciting. Okay, and one little tip. You'll find as the paper dries, so if you're still painting along with me, you'll find as the paper dries a little bit, the marks that you put in become sharper and they don't spread as much. And that comes down again to timing, like I was mentioning, because as the paper dries, obviously the marks, the water doesn't spread as much when you add in paint. So you get more sharper looking edges and lines. And that, when you combine it with the softer edges and the softer lines of the first few marks that we put in while the paper was completely wet, that's what creates an illusion of detail. Okay, and you have to be patient. You really have to be patient with this. And I'm very guilty of just wanting to get things done quick. I'm an impatient person, really. I'm very impatient. I want some result yesterday, really. But you can't rush this because it has its own time that you can do things. Okay, some more in here. So we've got some sharper bits and pieces in there. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I could spend longer on it, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to give this all a quick dry and then put in the remaining bits and pieces. So I'll pause the audio for a moment. Hang on a moment. Or maybe not. I can't pause the audio. Oh, no, I can. All right. That's my little trick there using a hairdryer, quick little hairdryer. And you can see if you get that first wash in, for me, it already looks like a farming sort of scene. Okay. At this point, we're just putting in little bits and pieces to finish it off, details of the sheep, stuff like that, the figures, window. Let me just try one more time. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I think there's been some issues with the stream. Uh, kind of stopped right in the middle of me doing something. I'm gonna just try to reconnect the Facebook. Can you guys see me okay? Hear me okay on YouTube? Let me know because seems to have connected okay on YouTube, but do let me know. I'm gonna try to restream again to Facebook. The meanwhile, yeah, a bit frustrating, but please bear with me. Okay, do bear with me. Okay. Yeah, don't know what's going on. Just a bit of connectivity issues. Yeah. Alrighty. Bear with me, guys. I will get through this. We will get through this. Voice is cutting. Okay, good. I'm gonna just try restreaming on Facebook again. Hopefully we can get through this right to the end. Yeah, how frustrating. Does my head in sometimes. Okay, I think we're kind of back. I think we're back on both Facebook and YouTube. So I'm going to get started again and continue on where we left off. Okay, apologies for the interruption. So what we want to do here is just want to put in all those final finishing touches. Okay, and for the sheep, you'll notice they're really, really light. Okay, they're really light. And what I want to do is start putting in some yellow, a little bit of light yellow, and water down that yellow a fair bit. Okay, more of a slightly saturated yellow, a bit more there like that. Okay, for the sheep, it's almost like a creamy yellow, aren't they? Like a Naples yellow or something, you know, Hansa yellow mixed in with a bit of white. I think that probably does the trick. Water that down a touch. Okay, just a little bit of color in there. It's very hard to get just that right mix in, but the more water you use in there, probably the better. Okay, like kind of sort of slightly creamy color. Just want to get in a little bit of color for some of these sheep. Okay, that. Okay. Good. I think everyone can hear me okay. Okay. So just continue on. I'm going to put in a bit of color for the person here, just a touch of blue maybe for the shirt, or this is actually kind of a purplish color, but let me pick up some, not purplish, like a lilac color. This is just a bit of teal. Let's put in some of that, like the shirt of this person. Okay. And the pants or whatever, I think I'll just go in with some darker color like this for the time being. Okay, let's put in some bit of color for the arms there. That the arms, the face like that. Just a bit of color for the face. Okay, and the legs. I think I'm just actually going to go in with darker sort of color, like a kind of a little bit of black, something like that. The light is coming from above. Okay, that's a leg here, that here. Okay, that could be another leg, right? And you know, holding this rake or whatever it is, you know, and I'm using a little what you may call it, synthetic round brush, and this really helps because you can get in sharper looking edges. Okay, maybe underneath here there's a bit of darkness like that. You know, I'm just trying to figure out, like, you know, with the sun coming from above, there might be a bit of shade underneath the face, the head like that as well. Underneath the hat, just a bit of darkness under the hat like that. These little things, especially in a scene with not so much contrast, it helps to bring out the details. Okay. And just simplify the legs down a touch as well. I want to put in a little shadow underneath the figure as well, like this. A little bit of darkness. Okay. Join the legs up a touch as well. Okay. Like that. A little bit of darkness there for the legs. Connect it onto that shadow. Maybe like a bit of that shadow running towards the right. Like that. Okay. And, you know, with the rake as well, you might get a bit of shadow here on the ground like that. Okay. There. Something like that. Quick little indication. Okay. Just got that figure in here in the foreground. Okay. Let me just double check that everything is going okay. I think next time I'll probably just do it. Probably just do it on YouTube. Probably just do this the whole stream on YouTube. Been a bit annoying having it cut out. How are you guys doing on Facebook? Let me know. Yeah, let me know how you're going, because I can see there's about 20 people, 21 people on Facebook. But if you can hear me okay and everything's going all right, let me know in the chats. I'm actually going to share this video to my other page, my other art page as well, because I think there's a few people kind of like waiting there too. Okay. What color for the skin? So, Yvette, I use a combination of pyrrole red, a bit of yellow ochre, and a bit of burnt sienna. It depends on what sort of skin tones you're trying to put in here. But this one I've used kind of like a muted down combination of red, yellow, and maybe a bit of remaining like gray left on the palette. So yeah, just a pretty basic sort of color, but I'm going more from the warmer end of the color spectrum. Okay. That little hat, I really want to emphasize that hat a bit more. Made it almost bit too much on the right hand side, but we'll be okay. We'll be fine. There's a car here in the background as well. I'm gonna let's just get that car in. Back of it like that. And maybe a bit of the windscreen showing through. That. Or not. Like that maybe. Let's put in some wheels underneath, connect it up at the base, and just draw a line across. Looks like the cars sort of just park there in the background. Telling a bit of a story, I like that. Okay, some of these fence posts, we can start putting in some of these little fence posts now. And again, you're just using, you were just using, you're just using a small round brush. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, good to see that you're still here, Anne, and Anna as well. Both of you, thank you for rejoining. I think a few people kind of got lost in the last stream, so I'm not able to. Very difficult to sort of try to share this video again, but it's tricky. Look, I'm probably just going to share this afterwards. It's having a lot of technical difficulties today for whatever reason. I usually have another modem that I use, but it broke. So I'm using my phone at the moment, which is, I think, the reason why there are some issues probably too much too much stuff going on for my phone to handle. Usually I've got a separate modem. But thank you for bearing with me. I really intend to get through this and make it through to the end. Okay, even if it takes a little bit longer to get through, I'm just finding it quite difficult to share the video. But yeah, guys, I'm just going to continue. Just going to continue on. Right. Let's get through, and I'm going to be using a bit of this brown paint. This brown paint, and again, we're going to get in these like kind of posts, these like these little wooden poles, fence posts that you see, you know, coming in. And you know how I do these is I always like to make them slightly angular. They're not all kind of facing in the same direction, or they're not so perfect. As you can see, a lot of them are kind of bent off in odd positions and things like that as well. Okay. And as we get closer to the front, notice how they become larger. Okay, a bit larger. So putting them in like that. Okay, we get a bit of black as well in here. I want these to be pretty dark because really now at the moment we're at the point where these tiny little bits and pieces actually bring together the entire scene, the shadows and everything like that. So notice how I'm just connecting, just finding ways to connect, and you know, these broken edged lines, so broken lines, I mean like this, like that. No, these kind of just lead the viewer through the scene. Okay, I don't connect up all the lines. I sort of just do it here and there. Okay, underneath the fence, it's kind of difficult to see. I mean, it's hard anyway because of all this stuff with the grass and things like that. But yeah, a little bit of yellow, a little bit more yellow, maybe just at the base to help join on as well can help. A little bit of yellowy green. Okay, some sharper bits here. This is just some yellow ochre. That. Let it join on a bit. Okay. Just little details again, like it's another layer of grass or some, you know, bits running through there. Let's work a bit on these like sheep here in the background. It's not going to be too tricky. What we just do is put in the legs of them like this, just a little bit of, you know, a bit of shadow under their heads, indicate their heads and the legs like that off in the distance. I want to make it quite loose though. Like that, see, just put in some couple of legs back there and a bit of shadow underneath them. Okay, that. Quick little indication of them. You know, you might have the sheep sort of this one on the side here. That. Little indications. Okay. That. Oh, there's another figure here. I'd nearly forgotten about this person here, just sort of standing there with the rake or whatever, like that. In the distance, maybe a bit of a dark bit of a darker shadow underneath. And I'll put in a bit of blue or something for the shirt, like that. Bit color for the face. But maybe a hat, the same sort of indication of this, like hat, darker hat. That. Okay, good. Yeah, YouTube, I never have any issues with YouTube. It's just that streaming to Facebook, there's always seems to kick me out halfway through the stream, and it's kind of annoying to have to deal with it, halfway through. But it is what it is. A bit of a shadow underneath these sheep as well to help kind of like ground them. I don't know how else to put it, but it helps to connect them to the ground. So that's a few. I mean, they look like little sheep, don't they? Kinda. With a few little brush strokes, it's quite amazing what you can imply. Let's put in some details for the bits and pieces out the back. I'm going to pick up some darker paint, just some black paint. We've got some neutral tint. I'm going to go through and just put in a bit of darkness underneath this rooftop here. See, just underneath that rooftop, you can see just a little bit of dark color. Okay, it's kind of where the shadow of the roof comes forth. Not only that, but you do have perhaps, I've modified this one a little bit and actually added in a bit of sideward area here for the building. Okay, that, and maybe there's like a bit of a door here or something that's catching the light. Okay. Little bit of detail for the side of the building, like this. Okay. Some more here. This just helps to draw out the buildings more, the structure of the buildings. It can be difficult to get them in or get the details of them in, but just a few quick little lines and brush strokes, you'll realize that it actually sufficient enough to imply what's happening in here. Maybe this shadow, for example, like that. Good. Bit of extra darkness underneath the rooftop in areas. I'm quite happy with those ones. I don't need to really do anything there. Some really dark bits of paint, and I'll put in some like windows like this, just some quick little splotches of paint in the areas, some areas like that, to indicate some little details of windows and stuff. Okay. Right. Might have little bits of fence posts and things coming through at the back as well. So just put in a few little indications of that here. So really, at the moment, I think we've got a nice, simple little scene. We've taken our time with everything, but at the same, in the same token, we're not, sitting here and laboring over all the little details. I am thinking, should I put a big shadow just coming through the scene, like running over to the right-hand side? I feel like I could just take a risk with this one and just get in a large shadow. I might give it a crack. Okay, you don't have to do this. I can experiment with it first, but I'm thinking to myself, why not maybe put in something large coming through, kind of like a large shadow of a cloud or something like that. Okay, which will cover bits and pieces, I'm going to pick up some purple, bit of purple, just a light kind of purple, mix it in with some darker neutral tint. Okay, I just want it to be kind of like a cooler shadow, maybe a bit of blue in there as well, a little bit of blue. Okay, and this is probably about, I don't know, 10% paint, 90% water still, but because we've got a very dark paint, it's probably going to look super dark. Let's just try this, yeah? Okay, not for the faint-hearted. Right. Sometimes, you'll get these shadows running across the scene from clouds, larger clouds moving across. So that's the idea here with this. Why not? I just thought I could experiment with it and see what it does, how it looks. This, especially near the front of the scene, a bit more extra darkness. Purple, and you've got to wait for the rest of this stuff to dry first, mind you. Don't go straight into it. Just wait for it to kind of dry off, and then go into it. Okay. So that the shadow kind of comes in, kind of looking a bit angular. So you've kind of got it coming upwards a bit like this, and coming out of the scene to the right. Okay, but you can still see the fence and all the little details behind it. If you do this quickly, and I'm using a little round brush, flat brush, if you do it quickly, you still preserve the details of the fence. Okay, and how sharp do I want this? I can soften it off in some parts. Here maybe, soften here, can soften this bit here. Okay. So this is just, yeah, it's just an imaginary shadow, really, coming in from the left hand side. Okay. Let's give this a dry. Okay, just a quick little finishing touch to bring it all together. I'm going to use some white gouache and drop in some final highlights to bring it all together. I've got a little round brush, and I thought, why not just bring out some light on the hat of this figure like this. Okay, and the shoulders. And just a bit of this white gouache is so helpful. It's basically opaque watercolor paint. And I think it's fantastic because you can just bring back little details. Even on the fence posts, get a bit of light coming in. On the sheep as well, you can just bring back a bit of light on maybe on the left hand side of the sheep. Bits of the buildings. If you've maybe lost some light on the buildings, like this one out the back, you can bring it back. Touch that. Don't overdo it though. Use that person with the hat again here. I think it's more important just to get this one here in the foreground slightly more detailed. There. Yeah, just tiny little bits of light, I guess, coming off areas of the scene. You can even use it to put in details of like trees in the background. You can mix in a bit of yellow with the gouache, and just put in some details of some trees, like some branches or something. Let's just try that. Something like this. There. There. Okay. Bit of variation in there. Do find there's some these little fence posts actually running through that are quite dark, light, sorry, just running through this section in the back. So go ahead and indicate some of that stuff. It's a great little tool as long as you use it sparingly. Okay, another, maybe like a tree there or something. Okay. So, I mean, look, a quick, simple little scene, but what you've learnt here today is one, how to layer, to couple different layers together to create a full scene. We've learnt some wet and wet watercolor techniques as well. How to imply detail through wet and wet using essentially some darker colors mixed into some lighter colors to bring things together and to make it look like there's more detail in there. You notice even now, and you can just keep on doing, you keep on going over and over and just keep on adding more details in here if you want. But you find with watercolors that layering process and being patient with it is what creates detail. You have to be patient and take your time. But also make sure you're not overworking everything. Keep it looking fresh. And the trick with wet and wet watercolors is because you're basically adding things in while the paper is still wet, you can get in so much detail, but it still looks fresh because technically it's still one wash, isn't it? It's just yeah. So I think that's it. Let me just take off the paper and just take off the paper and see what it looks like underneath. And if you're still around, hang around for a little bit because I talk a bit about my watercolor program that I have, some ongoing watercolor program that I've got, and just some of the other classes that I have. But let me know, how did today's session go? Apart from all the technical issues that happened halfway through, I really hope that you guys got some value out of today's workshop. It frustrated me that it did cut out, during the session, but I'll have to look into it next time. I have bought a new modem. I've just got to wait for the thing to arrive. So today the stream has just not been as stable as it is usually because I am using my phone. I'm actually surprised the thing is held up, considering that it does stuff in the background as well, probably downloading updates and things like that. So Yvette says, of the fence. Thanks, Yvette. I'm just having a look at how we going on Facebook. How people are going on Facebook. I think we're all doing okay. And Anne says they look like cute little sheep. They do, yeah. Pretty simple looking ones, but it does the trick. And one thing I really like about this is that it looks pretty fresh. I've simplified a lot of the details, but it does not look overworked, and the amount of highlights I've added on there have just been it just works. And I think you've got to really find that kind of balance between detail and making sure that things still look completely fresh. Okay. So I'm actually recording a whole, not recording, but I'm editing some new courses at the moment. And I thought I'd run through just a little presentation for those of you who are still around. I've got actually a new class that's coming up. This is one of the paintings that's included, also as part of a new set of classes that I'm editing. So I've got this scene of Melbourne, Venice, and I've also got a special class on painting urban landscapes. And there's, I think, about 15 demonstrations in this new class that I'm quite excited to actually release soon. So that's coming up. I know some of you have been asking about, any new classes I'll be releasing. So yeah, just a little sneak peek of that. And says, when you said you're going to put in a car, I thought, yuck, but I love the car. Yeah, I thought it needed some kind of extra contrast, some other details in there, because there's so many that, if you look at it, there's just so many softer and lighter colors in here. So the dark colors like the mountains and this little tree here, this car, even the legs of the figures and just the fence, it really brings the piece together. It's quite simple, and if I were to do it again, I'd probably spend a bit more time on the details of the buildings, maybe more of the figures and the sheep. But for something that we managed to pull off in about an hour, I think a nice little little painting. And Art House says that looks fun. Yep, I will just show you guys a quick little presentation. I actually run this. Last time I ran this was about about a month ago actually. And I'll run this for also some of the people who might be watching along later. So this is a course that I've had, like a large course that I've had running for some time now. There's 70 courses included. And I know for a lot of you guys, you might be trying to learn watercolors and you go onto YouTube and there's just so many courses, but a lot of the videos are just sped up, and it's difficult to understand like why someone is doing something, how much water they're mixing into the paint, and the consistency of paint when they're applying the paint. And those questions are the most important questions to ask, and a lot of times they're not really talked about in these YouTube tutorials. You find a lot of instructors just go through and say, hey, I'm picking up a bit of this blue, adding that in. But I think it's the little details that I go through, especially in today's session. As you notice, the way I describe things, the proportion of water, how long I'm waiting before I'm adding in paint, and why maybe the paper is, slightly damp or this much. And I think that makes a big difference, because the dampness of the paper, how much paint you have on the brush, the consistency of the paper of the paint makes a big difference. So I talk a lot about, in this program, I talk a lot about depth and perspective as well. So, like I sort of went through today, in terms of depth, how to blur things out in the background, like those mountains, helps to push them back, add in more darker colors in the foreground. I'll go into that in a lot more detail. I think there's about 300 to 400 videos in there. Okay. And, if you know what you're doing, if you know the process of how to design, compose a painting, and the process of applying paints in a couple of different layers like I have today, so starting with the light areas and the dark areas later, you're going to feel a lot more confident and relaxed when you paint, because you're going to know what comes next, what you have to do next, instead of being worried and thinking, oh, I've only got this much time to do it, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what, proportion of paint to use. So it's a course that helps to build your confidence, and in a variety of different subjects as well. There's lots of different videos that I include in there. This here you can see is actually some of my the little before and after. So that was when I started back in, I think, 2014, and pretty basic as you can see, and something that I painted. This was something I painted actually last year. So there was a lot of learning in between that, and a lot of frustrated moments where I almost gave up. And, if it wasn't for a few sort of aha moments, that I sort of stumbled upon just by experimenting and just through knuckling through it, I probably would have given up. So, in the course, what I do, I really just go straight into things. As you guys who attended today, you would already know that I just get straight to the point, tell you exactly what you need to do for each step of the painting, how to plan it, why I'm changing things, why I'm potentially adding something in or taking something out, so that you can understand how I'm thinking. And that's going to really help you to compose and plan your own paintings from any type of reference photos. So, of course, if you're going to feel confident, you're going to be able to produce better works and also feel more in tune in terms of your creative side, being able to express yourself rather than feel frustrated and pick up your brush and just feel that whatever you've painted doesn't really look like what you have in your mind. So that's the big thing. I just want people to be able to feel happy and feel that they're able to express themselves effectively. So this is what's included. There's a little bit of information. 70 course program. You get unlimited instant access, hundreds of hours of demonstrations. This is one of them that's included. There's so many in there. I've actually put in a few examples in a moment. You can learn at your own pace. You can pause and continue it on whenever you like. So it's all pre-recorded stuff, step by step as well, and narrated in the same style that I do in these tutorials, but in these workshops. But I do it in a lot more detail as well because I have more time in those sessions to actually explain things. A lot of times in these live workshops, I'm kind of multitasking, I'm answering questions, which is good. I love doing them both. They both have their benefits. So here's a few paintings that are included, just a few of the many that you can access and view as part of this session. I've got this program. I've got courses. I've got a course in there about values and tone, atmospheric watercolor painting, a lot of pen and wash stuff as well. I know some of you love pen and wash, drawing in pen and combining watercolors as well. Got some simpler classes for those of you just starting out and want to do something really basic. So it doesn't have to be done in the exact order. Okay, and even with the portraiture classes, it's a nice little bonus for those of you who want to learn how to paint portraits. So these are some of my reviews, because I teach on a number of different platforms, including Facebook. Get consistently good reviews from all of my students, always answering questions, as I want to make sure people are making it through the course, not getting stuck. So I answer questions all the time, and love getting feedback from people as well, and people providing me their work so that I can have a look at it and give them some tailored feedback. So, which brings me to the first bonus. So if you sign up today, what you'll get is, from the date of registration, from today, you'll get 2 months of tailored feedback from myself. So what that means is that you can do any sort of painting in the program, email it through to me, message it through me, and I'll give you some feedback on it. I can tell you what you're doing right, what you need to work on a bit more. And this is going to save you time and help you to think like an experienced watercolorist. A lot of the time when you are painting, you're starting out learning, you're really not sure what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. You end up with what I call happy mistakes. So sometimes you end up with a really good painting and you just don't know how you've done it. So being able to get into my head and for me to explain that, what you've done right, what we need to work on more. Maybe it's mixing colors, working on tones more, on values more, or working drawing more, for example, or planning. That's really going to save you so much time and frustration than having to completely repeat and practice and practice and practice and get nowhere. And I think there's a myth that you just practice incessantly and you're going to get better. Practice is very important, but you need to practice in a very directed way. You need to know what you're going towards. And if you're just repeating the same mistakes over and over, you're just going to feel like you're spinning your wheels, even though you're putting time into that. So that's one big bonus, and I think that's a big factor in why some of my students sign up for this. So you get also access to a private watercolor group that I check every day for questions, that kind of thing. That's lifetime access. Okay, priority support if you ask questions. Initially, when I started this program, I had 30 courses in there. Now there's 70, and I'm editing another 5. So I'll put some of those in there. It's becoming really large now, and at some point, I'm going to actually split this course up. So if you get in early, you're going to have access to everything, but at some point, I'll just allow access to anyone who's signed up previously, but I'll have to split up into smaller course because there's just too much of my content in there. So 4th bonus, you get ads-free access to all the previous live workshops that I've run. So I've uploaded those in there, and they're like this, but there's another, I think, 50 different, probably 60 in there now, previous ones that I've done. Okay, and all the questions that people ask as well. So, of course, how much does it cost? So this is a really big course. It has everything. It has all my recordings, all the courses that I've made for the past 2 years. And you can get them all for $297, unlimited access. Okay, in the description as well, you are able to register for my Patreon. If you sign up for the highest tier, you can access all my courses for, I think it's $30 a month. So you have a look at that. If you're not sure about committing to the full price, you can just try it out for a month and see how you go. But like I said, again, I don't know how long I'm probably going to keep this one up for. I do need to split it up into a couple of them. But if you do get it today, you have access to everything, and I'll keep that promise. So that's the price. And let me know in the comments later on if you're interested. In the comments below the video. I kind of lost a lot of people halfway through the video, and I'm a bit disappointed that I wasn't able to talk about this a bit more. But look, I'm just glad that you guys, I was able to finish this off at the end of the day. With the shoddy internet that I had, I had my fingers crossed. These are some of the student testimonials, a whole bunch of them. You can actually search me online, and I teach on a variety of platforms. All the reviews are public, and you can view them. And if you're still unsure, but of course even just attending the session today with me, I think is a good indication for you to decide whether my teaching style is right for you or not. So thank you guys so much for coming along. I'm going to hang around for a little bit to see if there's any questions, but it's a little bit quiet today because I'd lost everyone halfway through the stream. I think the other 50-something people didn't get my new event, weren't able to find my new event, and just it was just having to multitask between everything and trying to share it into the other page has been a bit of a nightmare. So I've not been able to get back the other. Lost about 50 people halfway through, but I'll keep an eye on the comments. I just want to see if there's anything that you guys, anything else that you guys want to know, would like me to share with you. Okay. And this is another version of this scene actually that I did the other day. Check this out. Every time you paint something, you can really get depending on what you're looking to achieve, you get different sort of styles. I mean, this has more of a sharper, hard-edged sort of feel, more contrast, whereas this one feels a little bit softer, almost like it's some morning light. Okay, so every time you attempt the same subject, I find you learn something different. Carlin says, thank you, Darren. I struggled to find you at the break, but did find the new link. Yep. Glad that you did manage to find it. When I started restreaming on Facebook again, because the new event's not linked to the, it's not linked to the original event, people just weren't able to find it. But I'm glad you were, and a few of you managed to rejoin. YouTube just tends to be a lot better. Yeah, it tends to be a lot better. I don't get any errors and stuff like that. Pamela says looks good, and I hope you're doing well, Pamela. And always good to see you during the lives. Pamela's one of my students. She does a heap of paintings. I think you've done almost all of the almost all of the landscape paintings, Pamela. I think I got an email from that course platform they sent me. I think you've done like 60% or something, 60-70%. So done very well. And yeah, reach out to me if you do need any help. I do see some of your posts sometimes in the group. So if you want some specific feedback from me, or if you're struggling with anything, please let me know. Carlin says feeling pretty good about my results. That's awesome. I'm happy that you end up with a good painting at the end of the day, and that you made it through the end. That's the big thing. As long as you make it through to the end and you learn something from it, even if you just had a bit of fun painting, you can't get any better than that. So, guys, I think that's about it. I'm going to end the stream now. 83%. Yeah, you must have progressed since last time. That's pretty big achievement. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of hours of stuff I have in there, but I know. Did you manage to finish that Australian landscape one, Pamela? I know we had some issue with one of the videos, and I fixed that up. With the gum trees, the white gum trees in the back. Hope you did okay with that one. Great. Righto. Okay. I'm gonna end the stream, guys. Thank you again for coming back, and I know there's a few new viewers. ANCNTDRGN. Thank you for joining. It's a new name. And Cassandra as well. Thank you to both of you. Cool. Oh, good. You've finished it already. Fantastic. All right. I will catch you guys next time, and hopefully I can stream some more. At least do these once a month. But appreciate you being here, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments later. Thanks for watching.